Have you ever wondered what it is that each attachment style actually needs in order to be loyal in a long-term relationship? Well, the data says it all. And in today's video, I'm going to break down by each attachment style when they are less likely to be loyal in relationships, what their loyalty rates sort of tend to trend towards or be, and who's the most loyal versus the least. And we're going to talk most importantly about why people actually end up cheating in relationships and what preventative measures are. Now, I want you to understand here that loyalty is not a personality trait. Research shows that it is deeply tied to our attachment style. And the results of this video might actually surprise you. So I'm excited to dig in together. Now, I want to start by just saying that when we look at people who cheat in relationships, we have this really interesting paradigm. Roughly 10% of people cheat for more pathological reasons. 10% of that pathological reasoning being things like somebody has narcissistic personality disorder, somebody has sex addiction, antisocial personality disorder. These types of things where literally pathologically, even if they have the perfect, most compatible partner who's showing up in the healthiest ways, they have their own things that are the really important things they have to work on themselves, if possible, in order to move the needle. Okay. And in order to not necessarily end up in these situations. And as you can imagine, right, you look at a narcissist who has this endless need for admiration and attention. Obviously, cheating in relationships is of a greater likelihood because they're trying to fill that void within them. And even if they had the perfect partner, one person isn't going to fix that for them. Okay. And you see the same things, people with sex addiction issues, things like this. There's more going on. Then we have the 90% camp of people when they cheat. And this usually falls into this very specific trajectory, which is that people cheat in relationships when they have unmet needs, a lack of communication over time, which leads to resentment in relationships. And then they start to justify that, okay, my needs aren't being met by my partner anyways. This person doesn't really care about me. And because the subconscious mind is a needs meeting machine, eventually, they will start to look outside of the relationship. And if somebody comes along and let's say one of your deepest unmet needs was something like physical touch or affection, and somebody comes into your life and they're super physically affectionate, or they make you feel wanted and important if you're not getting that at home, then often the mind starts rationalizing from its resentment towards the partner, the person that they think is supposed to have met their needs, starts rationalizing, oh, my partner doesn't care anyways, or things aren't working out anyways. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe they've already cheated too. Maybe they would. We're struggling. It starts to justify and kind of hyper-focus on the person who represents these needs being met. If we actually break this down further, we can now go into by attachment style, okay? So we see these different dynamics, and different attachment styles basically skew in different directions in regards to infidelity. Let's start with a securely attached person. Securely attached individuals, research shows they demonstrate the highest commitment consistency because they are not in a dynamic where they're likely to have unmet needs. As you can imagine, if they're really good at knowing their needs and communicating them, and they're really good at receiving and speaking openly and working through conflict, the chances of their needs being unmet in that 90% of people where they feel frustrated and resentful that their partner's not meeting their needs, and then they don't know how to communicate about those things, and then they justify, that's just off the table. That's just a very low likelihood because they try to actually take their problems in a relationship and resolve it directly with their partner rather than outside of the relationship. And that is again because securely attached individuals are comfortable having a primary attachment figure and solving things with that person. They have really adaptive ways of addressing relationships. They're like, okay, this is my person I'm committed to. There's a problem here. I'm not going to try to solve the problem here by going outside here and looking elsewhere. They believe in the ability to solve things and they're quite practiced at it. So that's our securely attached person. Then we have our three insecurely attached styles. One end of the continuum, we have the anxious attachment style. Now, anxiously attached individuals are known for being a little more loyal, but their loyalty is often a little bit contingent on reassurance. In other words, the more they feel like somebody's going to abandon them, and the more they feel that there's a lack of reassurance and certainty in the relationship, their subconscious mind needs a tremendous amount of feeling reassured and loved and wanted and prioritized and important and a certain degree of affection. And so while they put a lot of value on their relationships, which makes them initially less likely to cheat, research does indicate that they are more likely than other attachment styles to form crushes, emotional bonds with people, to fall into limerence. And of course, that can be a slippery slope. So, for example, if you have an anxious attachment style individual who's in a long-term relationship, and in that long-term relationship, they don't get their need met for feeling that they are important or valued or wanted, which are important needs for anxious individuals, then when somebody makes them feel like that at work or somewhere else in their life, they may develop a crush or some degree of feelings. And then even though they're less likely to cheat because they value relationships so much, once you develop feelings for somebody, that does open the gateway to falling prey to some of those things longer term. So what I generally see here is that anxious attachment styles are less likely to cheat in shorter term relationships and sometimes likely to cheat, at least more so than securely attached individuals, in longer term relationships because they can only go on for so long with their needs being unmet. Let's look at the fearful avoidant, and I kind of think of this as being more of a loyalty paradox. They crave very deep connection and they want to be loyal. They value loyalty. So I want you to think of it this way. When somebody values something a lot, but then has things working against it, it's tricky, right? So you see the anxious attachment style, they value relationships a lot, but then they develop crushes more easily. A fearful avoidance, they value loyalty a lot, but because they have this fear of abandonment and this fear of being trapped and controlled, these push-pull patterns will often cause them again to not communicate their needs, which means they're more likely to have unmet needs in a relationship long term. They often put pressure on themselves to meet their partner's needs very deeply. So they feel like, I'm trying so hard with you. Do you even care about me? Do you even, want to invest in this relationship? And they often will be quicker to justify if they do cheat. Well, I'm trying really hard with you. I don't know if you care about me much at all. So does it even matter if I cheat? You probably have cheated too. And sometimes the fearful avoidance distrust and increased suspicion can lead them to more justification. So they're likely to have high value on loyalty, but patterns that are working against them. This sort of cynical attitude towards relationships, infidelity as a whole, the distrust of their partner, and then this sense of like, I'm trying so hard, my needs aren't getting met, which can lead to justification. Okay, so we see in order, anxious attachment styles cheat the least, or insecure, of course, after securely attached styles. Then we see fearful avoidance. And again, not each attachment style is necessarily always cheating who's insecure, right? It's just that these are the reasons that they do. And last but not least, we'll go into the dismissive avoidant. There is currently an epidemic of loneliness happening in our world. And it's being driven even more so by the fact that we now have AI. So people are just constantly seeking this high quantity of connection, but not quality of connection that happens through loneliness, vulnerability, and understanding the intricate dynamics of human relationships. And right now, for a limited time, you can actually gain access for free, for life, literally a lifetime offer. It's a gift to our Overcoming Loneliness and Building Authentic Connections course. This course will give you in-depth materials and resources to build more authentic connections, to know what makes you feel most connected to others, and to understand what makes other people feel most connected to you, and how to rewire limiting beliefs that are blocking your vulnerability or authenticity, as well as other really powerful tips for how to build connection in a meaningful way, whether it be in dating, in romantic relationships, or in friendships. This is a lifetime gift, and it comes for free when you sign up for a 7-day free trial to the Personal Development School, which also gives you access to all of our courses for 7 days. And you can join me in the webinars. You can ask me questions. We literally have live events every single day for so much personalized support. And no matter what, if you cancel before the 7th day even, you still keep that loneliness course for life. So I hope you enjoy this gift, and let's get back to the video. Now, last but not least, let's talk about dismissive avoidance. Dismissive avoidance may end up in dynamics where they compartmentalize a lot. And the more somebody compartmentalizes, the easier it can be to rationalize or justify. So we have this really interesting combination for dismissive avoidance. They tend to have a lower emphasis on loyalty in relationships and on relationships themselves, which makes their boundaries a little bit more permeable, but they are less likely to develop feelings as quickly as other attachment styles. They're usually the individuals who are the slow burn. They take a little bit longer to warm up, to feel this sort of openness to somebody else, wanting to engage with people. So because they're a little standoffish and they keep their walls higher, they're less likely to develop feelings as quickly as you would see with a fearful avoidant or anxious attachment style. But they're less likely to also think that it's a really, really terrible thing to cheat. It's not that they don't consciously, logically know that it's really unhealthy, but they don't value relationships and loyalty quite in the same way that the other two attachment styles who are insecure do. This kind of puts them in this toss up where research actually shows they're the most likely to cheat out of the insecure attachment styles, not by a lot, by a little bit, but part of it can also be because when they start feeling frustrated or like they are not happy in a relationship, they also are looking to sabotage and exit. They generally have this psychological component where they are likely to sabotage in relationships, and they will do that by pushing somebody away, by devaluing the relationship, by convincing themselves they don't need somebody. And of course, if somebody comes in who's meeting their needs when their needs are not being met, we are likely to see them cheat in relationships, of course, and we are likely to see them not take cheating quite as seriously. They may rationalize it a little bit more, but it doesn't mean that they don't feel guilt or empathy. If they do make a mistake and they do hurt somebody, they will feel that as well in their struggles. But we do see dismissive avoidance being the highest likelihood to cheat, but just by a little bit. So hopefully that makes sense and gives you a really in-depth synopsis. And of course, making sure that we communicate our needs in relationships, that we're open and transparent, especially having weekly check-ins about needs, knowing each other's needs by open conversation. These are all really healthy preventative measures to have in a relationship that will cause people to not feel like they need to search outside of relationships. And obviously resolving conflict in relationships is a very strong secondary part to cheating prevention in long-term relationships too. And the data shows it. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any free gifts or shares I give away on here, and that you don't miss any of our daily videos. And I'll see you next time.